ποσοστό ανεργίας των ανάπηρων ατόμων να ανέρχεται στο 75%, ωστόσο υπάρχουν πολλά εργαζόμενα άτομα με αναπηρία που διαπρέπουν στον κλάδο τους. Ένα από αυτά είναι ο Γκάρι Ο Ντόνοχιου, πολιτικός ανταποκριτής για το BBC στη Βόρεια Αμερική. Παρ' όλα αυτά, όταν έκανε τα πρώτα του βήματα στη δημοσιογραφία 30 χρόνια πριν, η τεχνολογία δεν ήταν με το μέρος του.
We had a library at the BBC that there was dozens of people who just spent their whole day cutting up newspapers and categorizing them. And if you wanted some research done, you'd ask them the kind of area you'd want, and they would bring you back in 2 hours and say, your cuttings are ready. And they would be photocopied onto these A3 sheets of paper. I had no means of reading it independently. And I'd have to sort of beg, borrow, and steal time from researchers, from friends, I would call them on the program, just mates or other reporters who had a few minutes spare. I'm pretty sure one girlfriend I had very early on left because I used to make her read so many cuttings. And, and on top of that, you had the difficulties. I mean, I worked alone, so you had the difficulties of traveling around. We didn't have mobile phones. So if you had to call into the office, you had to find a phone box in the street and call in. I think I had to work very hard to make it work. But the end result was always so satisfying.
Η τεχνολογική επανάσταση και η ψηφιοποίηση της πληροφορίας των τελευταίων δεκαετιών έχουν συμβάλει σημαντικά στη βελτίωση της εργασιακής εμπειρίας των τυφλών και εντυπωανάπηρων ατόμων.
If I had one piece of equipment and one piece of equipment only, I would choose my iPhone, because it is the gateway into the world of information for me. The pace of development in technology is vast and fast. And so new technologies come along, and of course no one, thinks beforehand whether you can use them as a blind person or not. No one's interested. Recently here in the BBC, they've just introduced a new system, couldn't use it, suddenly couldn't do this, that and the other. You have to kick up a fuss. And that sort of thing never goes away.
Ένα σημείο σταθμός στην καριέρα του Γκάρι Ο Ντόνοχιου ήταν η ζωντανή κάλυψη της απόπειρας δολοφονίας του Ντόναλντ Τραμπ στις 14 Ιουλίου του περασμένου έτους.
We set up just outside the perimeter as we weren't allowed in. And I suddenly heard these shots and we had no idea what was going on. We suddenly realized Donald Trump had stopped talking. We then suddenly heard some screaming from inside. And, we went to work and we started to talk about what we knew. We interviewed people who were coming. We were lucky because they were coming our way, all these people. We were probably on air for, I don't know, I'm looking at my producer, 4 or 5 hours. I don't remember much about that time. I mean, I remember some of the individuals we spoke to, and of course we spoke to the very famous individual that, went around the world, Greg Smith, the guy who saw the shooter on the roof, and he told this extraordinary story about what he'd seen and how he tried to warn the Secret Service for, it seems, I think, about 5 or 6 minutes before the actual shots. I firmly believe that if he hadn't seen what he'd seen, or if he hadn't told us and we hadn't put it on air, people would still be arguing about what really happened. Like I said to my producer, remember this moment, this is history.
Όσο για την εξέλιξη της εκπροσώπησης και της παρουσίας ανάπηρων ατόμων στα μέσα μαζικής ενημέρωσης, ο Ντόνοχιου δεν εμφανίζεται αισιόδοξος.
It's never good enough. It's never been good enough. It's a huge uphill battle, and it's one of those things that doesn't change all that much. There's been progress on gender, there's been progress on race, and disability is the poor cousin, I'm afraid. And you only have to look at the general population when you look at the unemployment numbers amongst disabled people that have stayed stubbornly bad for years. Anywhere from 2/3 to 75% of disabled people are working age without a job. How does that make any sense? Take on the Democrats to get that